Welcome back to the Arcane Forge. My name is Jess, and today I wanted to talk about why are your Aasimar so boring? And more importantly, how can making them weird make them way more interesting? So, I don't know about you, but when I was first introduced to the Aasimar in 5th edition through Volo's Guide to Monsters, I was incredibly excited. So I was already going to love tieflings, but the idea of their opposite, angelic people, not to be contrary, but hell yeah. Also, their stats and subraces are absolutely amazing. They can heal, produce waves of light, some can grow really cool wings, burn people with holy radiation, or act as vengeful, necrotic arbiters of justice and death, with this huge amount of menacing power that they can just tap into on a whim when they connect to their inherently divine souls. On paper, they're amazing. But on the other hand, whenever I saw artwork for them, I felt much less inspired. Unlike the cool, vibrant, colourful tieflings, with their interesting horns and their long tails, bringing something really fun and unique to the table, the Aasimar seemed comparatively dull. And to be fair, largely it's my imagination here that was lacking. Their descriptions in Volo's Guide describe them as descended from humans with a touch of the power of Mount Celestia, the divine reality of any lawful good deities. And that's what I think a lot of people latched onto. That these were fundamentally human-looking people, perhaps exceptional in their own way, more beautiful or perhaps more graceful than most. But then, if you play D&D, then you're already better than normal people, so how were these guys different? Personally, in my own homebrew campaign setting, I had this divine demigod-like human emperor who had lived since, the dawn of humankind. So while he was immortal, anyone that he chose to marry, fell in love with, whatever, probably was very unlikely to be that. So I had his many descendants, a bit like Genghis Khan, kind of be the noble houses, the nobility, and they were Aasimar. And I'm sure that is in no small part due to my obsession at that current time when I was writing this stuff with Game of Thrones, and their noble houses being so defining of someone's personality, their aesthetics, and their genetics. But looking more closely, there are way cooler ways to roll up these guys. Turning back to Volo's Guide's description, we're also told that it's not just when they go Super Saiyan that they get a bit angelic. Quote, "They are a people of otherworldly visages with luminous features that reveal their celestial heritage." And at last, the penny finally dropped for me and I had to get drawing, so I turned over to Twitch and I live streamed, illustrating coming up with some slightly weirder, more celestial Aasimar rather than less human, and I asked for your impact, your feedback, and your ideas as well. So, as I say, inspiration finally struck when I remembered the internet's absolute obsession with what are called biblical angels. Now, obviously, the Aasimar are only half angel, or carry some kind of divine spark about them, something of their souls is from Celestia and not mortal. Perhaps they could even be a lesser celestial, actual angel of some description, depending on how you personally want to roll them in your campaigns. But opening up part of their descriptions, part of their appearance, to the truly eye-wateringly messed up and horrifying descriptions of angels in the Judeo-Christian faith gave me an absolute goldmine of way more interesting features to illustrate for these guys. For those who are luckily unaware of how biblical angels are described in their original source material, they aren't quite the beautiful, halo-adorned, winged humans with flowy white dresses that have become popular over the centuries. In Christian stories and in ancient Greek stories for sure, probably in a lot of other places, translations referred to people being God-fearing when they were worshippers of some description, and were usually absolutely terrified by the presence of angels. Any of you who, like me, became obsessed with Midnight Mass on Netflix will have had this reminder embedded in your brain. Largely, I'd perhaps naively presumed that this was because they were so radiantly beautiful and filled with divine power, but these messengers are messed up. And they make for really interesting D&D characters and creatures in general. The cherubim, who up until now I had pictured as very, very flamboyant and chubby little babies with tiny little wings and harps and stuff, are instead described in the book of Ezekiel as roughly adult-sized creatures with 4 faces, only one of which is human-looking. The others belong to a lion, an ox, and an eagle. They have 2 sets of wings, rather than one little tiny set, where one set covers their bodies, because it would absolutely melt your mind to look upon them directly, and the other set help them fly more conventionally. They also are said to have bull's hooves instead of feet that, quote, gleam like polished brass. The seraphim hold a lot of cool hybridization options for really freaky looking Aasimar. The word seraph itself actually has a debated origin, but it either means to burn or refers to some kind of venomous desert snake in ancient Hebrew, both of which, by the way, already give us some amazing flaming serpent-based energy to work with. According to a prophet named Isaiah, the seraphim are some of the highest-ranking angels in God's arsenal and personally orbit this deity's throne, singing praises and hymns over and over and over again. They're supposed to have 3 sets of wings, one of which are used to allow them to fly, and the rest are actually required to cover their whole bodies, although their faces are still often depicted in illustrations and paintings. They're supposed to be constantly wreathed in flame, and if they were to shift their wings enough for you to look at their bodies to actually catch a glimpse of them, you would either be blinded, like looking directly at the sun, or you might be burned to ash, so flames and lots of wings obscuring parts of their bodies might be a great idea for a seraphim-inspired Aasimar. One option that I thought would be really interesting would be to illustrate a barbarian who had this kind of heritage. Specifically, a zealot barbarian seems like a really, really good fit, especially because when they rage, they give off radiant damage, but in general, a barbarian who bursts into literal angelic flames, regardless of what subclass you pick, seems like a really good way to have an Aasimar who is inspired by this particular type of biblical angel. The Ophanim are definitely some of the more peculiar sounding angels which have to be used as inspiration for the Aasimar. These are mostly described by Ezekiel, a Hebrew prophet, whose wild stories are often used alongside stories written by Enoch, by ancient alien conspiracy theorists and speculators who, in this person's particular tales, see evidence of ancient descriptions of flying saucers and other weird sci-fi elements. However you want to use these as reference, Ezekiel's accounts describe angelic beings who are constructed of interlocking, consistently rotating golden rings, all of which are covered in hundreds of different eyes. This sounds more like a beholder than any angel I'm used to, but I love the idea of using these things as inspiration for our future Aasimar creations. So, loosely deconstructing the ideas that we have so far, we need to include a humanoid form of some description. Volo's guide does specifically say humans, but why not have even more fun and let your players pick any starting player species as their base for these guys? Don't let humans have all the fun. And we get to add a ludicrous number of eyes in places that they might not usually be, golden rings and wheels, brass hooves, lots and lots and lots of wings and fire, and not only a cluster of beast heads, but also we have free license to give a single character several heads. Hi there, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to take this tiny little moment, and I will be as quick as I possibly can, to ask for your help in growing the channel and supporting what we do here. These videos take a huge amount of effort, like full-time job level, if that wasn't apparent enough already, and I can only continue to do this kind of stuff with your assistance. So if you'd be kind enough and generous enough to check out our Patreon, I'll leave a link down below, then we have loads of exciting rewards that will hopefully make your assistance worthwhile, as well as just getting to keep the lights on here and allowing me to make this content. If you can't assist in that way, but you're still enjoying the video and you'd like to see more from me, please make sure to hit the like button down below, subscribe, maybe share this to some people so that we can compete with the rest of the content on YouTube and try and beat the YouTube algorithm. But anyway, I've taken up way too much of your time already. Thank you so much for being patient with me, and I will let you get back to the rest of the video. So a really long time ago, I made a video actually about angels and concluded that because they had so many different forms and because they were created from celestial energy, that they were kind of robotic messengers of some description, and that they appear in so many different stories in so many different ways, that this celestial fire, this radiance of some kind of deity, could make them inherently energy-based creatures, coalescing into some kind of humanoid form in the case of Aasimar, but they could be energy beings. You can go back and look at my Angel Monster Monday for a bit more information on that kind of thing. And so they can shapeshift, they can become energy. It means that we can open up our interpretations of these creatures in so many different ways to personalize them, but it also means that we can look at perhaps other celestial origins. We're also told that in Mount Celestia, this is the home of all lawful good deities, or at least most. And that seems to be where the souls of the Aasimar come from to manifest on Earth. So maybe your Aasimar isn't just angelic in some description. Maybe there's something else entirely. Some of you were suggesting looking at coatls over on Twitch, and to be fair, we know that the Aasimar in canon have largely, but not even exclusively, been formed by lawful good or celestial deity energy in their souls and given humanoid form. So we have so many interesting gods and creatures that we can take reference from if we want to run some kind of Aasimar and we run out of ideas from our biblical angel inspiration. We could always use the Egyptian gods as celestial reference, affording you various different animal heads, like those belonging to Horus, the falcon-headed god of war, hunting, and the sky, Set, the god of chaos, violence, deserts, and storms, who had a sort of canine-like animal head, but Egyptologists are still not 100% certain on what this creature was linked to and what they were referencing. It could even have been a mythological creature all of its own. Anubis, the jackal-headed caretaker of the dead and of funeral rites, would make a great inspiration for a fallen Aasimar. And in the same breath, Thoth was a god of wisdom, writing, making him a great base for a wizard. And he had the head of either a baboon or an ibis. The list of Egyptian gods goes on and on and on when it comes to interesting celestial interpretations that you can use for your Aasimar. Chinnamaster or Kinnamaster, a Buddhist and Hindu deity of self-sacrifice, cut off her own head and likes to carry it around like a handbag. So if we're going down the deity route, there's no reason why your character even has to have their head on their shoulders. They could be carrying it around. It also depends whether or not you consider Baron Samedi, the Haitian spirit or god, a deity. But if you do, then you can always make your bard a suit-wearing, skull-headed creature, just like the aforementioned spirit of obscenity, chaos, debauchery, and intoxication. That's just to name a few of the more bizarre-looking deities that pop off the top of my head. Let me know down below in the comment section if there are any other weird creatures and deities or celestial beasts that you think might be interesting inspiration for an Aasimar that appear in real-world mythology, but we don't even have to look that far. In D&D alone, there are loads and loads of really interesting celestial creatures that could be the inspiration, the jumping off point for your Aasimar character. You could always use a unicorn to give yourself a more horse-like head, or even go for a centaur route. Or you could give them a more giraffe, draconic, or antler-like form by going down the route of inspiration from the Kirin. There are even draconic gods like Bahamut who could use as your inspiration, letting you add dragonborn features to your Aasimar. So yeah, don't let your Aasimar be something that's boring to you. If you love the idea of looking just like a beautiful human, and occasionally you grow wings, or a halo, or you burst into flames, or you go Super Saiyan, then please don't let me stop you. But if you avoid using the really interesting stats of the Aasimar because you just don't want to play another human-like character, and you want to play something weird, let your Aasimar be weird, let them be peculiar, let them be inspired by biblical angels or some other type of deity. Personally, researching this video and thinking about it has totally changed how I want to represent the Aasimar and how I would encourage my players to manifest themselves in games. You don't just have to be a tiefling or something really peculiar and animal-like if you want to be super weird in your D&D games. You can do it with the Aasimar, and I cannot wait to hear your interpretations, what you've come up with, and if this video helps you, I would love to hear about what you come up with in the future. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you were inspired, or I hope you just found this interesting to watch at least. I absolutely loved getting to be a bit more creative with these guys and draw some really interesting stuff, and I really appreciate you being here. We are just tiny little cherubs ourselves, so if you want to help the channel grow, please make sure to leave a like down below, perhaps comment or favourite this video, share it with as many people as you can, spread the good word of your brand new Aasimar. And of this channel, please, we really need the help. And if you'd like a copy of this illustration for yourself, you can find that through my Patreon, where you can help to tangibly create these videos with me. So thank you very much if you choose to do that. Until next time though, that's everything from me here. Thank you so much for joining me, and until next week, get weird. Happy monster hunting. Bye.